Greetings and salutations, fellow English users. Welcome back to M's Language Academy. I'm M, and today I want to talk about 8 highly advanced phrases and expressions borrowed from Latin and 1 borrowed from French. Now, these phrases are not something that most people use in their speaking on a daily basis, but those who do are the cream of the crop. Your college professors, your philosophers, your scientists, your governmental officials, in other words, the brightest and the most sophisticated of us all. And if you use them, you will immediately be elevated in the eyes of your peers. You will establish yourself as a well-spoken and scholarly individual. You will dominate every conversation. And I guarantee you that everyone who hears you using these phrases will be sufficiently impressed, and they might even comment on your high level of English. But remember M's golden rule. Use only 1 such advanced phrase per 10 minutes of conversation. Because, as my favourite television psychiatrist Dr. Fraser Crane once said, there's nothing more irritating than pointless and pretentious erudition. So keep that in mind when you use them. If you already think that your English is fairly advanced, you can still watch the video and test yourself. Because if you know all of these phrases, it is a guarantee that you're not only fluent in the language, it means that you are a bona fide scholar, a veritable expert in the subtle art and exact science that is the English language. So without further ado, let's have a look at my 9 advanced phrases borrowed from Latin and French that will make you sound extremely bright and sophisticated. Here's the first one. You should see it on the screen right now. Do you know what it means? Do you know how to pronounce it? Let's find out. So the correct pronunciation of this phrase is prima facie, and it refers to something that is apparent at first sight, something that is obvious based on first impression, or in legal terms, it is something that is accepted as true until proven otherwise. Let's have a look at some possible examples. Something from the cryptocurrency industry, perhaps. Some lesser-known cryptocurrency projects are prima facie examples of fraud. This sentence means that these projects are obviously scams. Another example could be, I realize that prima facie, the idea is absurd. But if you think about it, you'll see the brilliance. Another one could be, prima facie, the cause of death was a gunshot to the head. Okay, 1 down, 8 more to go. This is number 2 on my list. How would you pronounce it? And do you know what it means? So the correct pronunciation is bona fide. In American English, bona fide. But I prefer the British pronunciation, bona fide. I will explain why later. Now, if something is bona fide, it is genuine, it is real. In Latin, the phrase means in good faith. So in legal English, this term is used to describe something that is honest, that is done without the intention to deceive. I've actually used this phrase earlier in the video when I said that if you knew these words, you were a bona fide scholar, which means a genuine, a real scholar. Okay, so someone can be a bona fide scholar, a bona fide expert. Another example could be, I couldn't believe his offer to buy my old laptop for $5,000 was bona fide. Or, people on the internet who offer to send you money are seldom bona fide. Number 3 is the opposite of bona fide. Let's have a look at it. The pronunciation is mala fide in both British and American English. So that's why I prefer the British pronunciation, because there's a nice symmetry between bona fide and mala fide. Whereas in American English you say bona fide and then mala fide. So you see there's a certain disparity between the two tones. Now, mala fide means in bad faith. It can also mean illegal or dishonest behavior, especially when people use their position or the general situation to gain advantage. Let's have another cryptocurrency related example. Why not? Let's try to stay modern here. Many in the cryptocurrency sector argue that the financial regulators are acting mala fide, or in bad faith, not trying to protect the users, but rather to eliminate unwelcome competition. Another example from the political arena. Despite their claims to the contrary, the Russian government are now seen as a mala fide actor on the global stage. All right, here comes number 4. So, what does it mean? And how to even pronounce it? This one has a dual pronunciation. In other words, it can be pronounced in 2 different ways. The one that I prefer is sui generis, but some English speakers pronounce it sui generis, so you can choose. If something is sui generis, it means it's unique, literally of its own kind. Let's have a look at some examples. The company's innovative product was a sui generis solution to a long-standing problem. Or, the unpopular fashion designer was infamous for taking others' designs and labeling them as his sui generis collection. All right, number 5. Here it comes. The pronunciation is ne plus ultra, and it means the highest or the most extreme example of something, the ultimate point of something that can be achieved. In Latin, it literally means no more beyond. So you could say that spaghetti bolognese is the ne plus ultra of Italian cuisine. Or The Matrix is the ne plus ultra of sci-fi action films. Here comes number 6. The correct pronunciation is sine qua non, and it refers to an essential condition, something that is absolutely necessary. In other words, something without which something else is impossible. Okay? So, good use of language is the sine qua non of every writer. It means without good use of language, you can't really be a good writer. All right, 6 down, 3 more to go. Here comes number 7. The correct pronunciation is ex post facto, and it means retroactively, retrospectively, after the fact. So there could be an ex post facto law, which would mean that something that you might have done and that was legal at the time is now illegal, and you might be punished retroactively. I believe it's illegal in some countries. This phrase can also be used outside the legal environment. For example, if a project is approved ex post facto, it means it is approved after it has already been begun or completed. Another example could be, we believed it was a sound investment at the time, but ex post facto, it is obvious it was a mistake. Number 8, this is the last phrase borrowed from Latin that I will offer you today. Here it is. The pronunciation, I think this is the easiest one to pronounce so far, FELIX CULPA. The explanation is a bit tricky. The literal translation from Latin is a fortunate fall or a happy fault, a happy mistake. In other words, something fortunate or beneficial that arises from an unfortunate event. For example, forgetting my laptop at home was a FELIX CULPA because it forced me to disconnect and enjoy a perfect day at the beach. Or the car accident ended up being a FELIX CULPA because it led to the discovery of a previously undiagnosed medical condition. Now, the ninth and final phrase on my list today is this. It comes from French, and the pronunciation is fait accompli, which means a done deal, something that is presented as final or impossible to change. An accomplished fact is the literal translation from French, I believe. Examples. The deal was presented as a fait accompli, which was, of course, unacceptable. Or, the team secretly implemented the new software, turning it into a fait accompli before anyone had the chance to provide their input. All right, that's all for today. So, how did you do? Did you know all of those phrases? If so, congratulations. You can unsubscribe from this channel and stop learning English because you have attained a true mastery of the language. If you didn't know them and found them useful, please like, subscribe, and all the good stuff. Also, don't forget to use those phrases as soon as possible and let me know how it went in the comments. Did other people comment on your remarkable knowledge of English, or were they confused because they didn't know what on earth you were talking about? I'd be curious to know. I'll see you soon. In the meantime, go out there and impress.